And we are live. Hello, everybody. I see we've got a few in the chat room already. I'm Neil Moore, and you have joined us here for Inside the Geocaching Network.
Everybody, I see we've got a few in the chat room already.
And somebody's got to plug in their earphones or turn off the speaker.
I did turn it off.
Okay.
I just turned off my speaker. Sorry about that.
That's all right. All right. So we got tonight. We have Dan from Adventures with Dan, and we've got there's Dan right there, and Brent is Simrebel, and there's Brent. All right, and so tonight we're gonna talk to Dan and Brent a little bit about their geocaching careers and their vlogging, and then we're going to talk about a couple events that are coming up or have already happened. So if you have questions for Dan or Brent, whether it's regarding those events or regarding their geocaching or their vlogging escapades, feel free to stick that in the live chat. And let's see. So just looking at live chat here, we're adding some more people in. And we've got, let's see, Sir Dormalat's joined us. GeoScouter 117, Dan Close in England. It's 1 a.m. in England, so he is up late.
Still celebrating his birthday, probably.
Ah.
Whenever we went naked for cash the way you did in that one picture.
No, that's all right. We don't need to see that again. All right, so let's get started. First of all, let's start with Dan. Dan, just tell us how you got into geocaching and what drew you to that.
Actually, you know my wife. Some of you guys also know my wife. We started. She actually brought up geocaching when we were going hiking on trails. We were just going on local trails around the area, and they had geocaching as a link on a lot of the trails. And I said, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Then 3-4 months later, down the road, she brought it up again when we were going to a state park, and I happened to click the link, and we were headed out to my sister's house one day, and we decided to take the family out to a local park right around her house, and we found a cache. It was waterlogged, but we were hooked ever since. And then we just wanted to find more and more, and we found a nano for our second cache, which was really hard. Basically the thrill of not knowing what you're gonna find and what you're gonna find next just drew us in, and we just kept on finding more and more interesting caches because where we went caching when we first started, there was a lot of caches in the area, and they just put out just random different ones, and we were lucky to have those people around us when we started caching that we were able to find so wide variety of caches.
So when did you start? What year did you start?
2011, I believe.
Okay. So, and then and how many finds are you at right now?
Just above 8,000.
All right. And have you had any times in the last 7 years where you kind of dropped off, or has it just been full tilt?
No, the first 3 years we found probably 6,000 of the 8,000 caches we found. We were full bore, sun up to sundown, caching all day long. It just, then Shaw and my life got in the way with work, and when I'm working weekends, it sort of slows you down because those are the times when you usually want to go out caching. And when you're working 6-7 day weeks, you only have but 2-3 hours, but that time you just want to relax and go on a down low. So because you're so tired from work, especially where I work, where it gets over 100 degrees sometimes in the plant. So,
wow.
So,
right.
And then life gets in the way of it too. We were putting our caching ahead of birthday parties, caching ahead of family gatherings, and we're like, what are we doing to ourselves? We're like disappearing from our friendships and our families, and it just got in the way of it. And we just had to know we had to take a step back and just do basically quality caches over quantity. We're just going out to find anything out there, and then we're sort of going after quality. And that sort of works with YouTubing too, because people want to see you lifting up lamps for 50 times in the video. They want to see stuff different. So
yeah. All right, Brent, when did you get started and how?
Well, started back in 2011 as well, and basically buddy here at work kept talking about it over and over and over. And he's like, hey, you got to try this. You got to try this. I have a cache out there. So got on YouTube and started watching YouTube videos of what it was all about, and download the app to my new Android LG flip phone that I had. So one time at work, I popped out. There's supposed to be a cache right 100 feet from the mobile camera van that we're working in, just filming town council meetings. So I popped out, went over there, looked for it, couldn't find it. Following week, went and tried to find it, couldn't find it. Finally, was up at the studio, and there was one a couple 100 feet from it, which came over and looked at it in a bush, and there's a fake pine cone hanging there on a string. It's like, oh, this is pretty cool. So I was telling the wife about it, Annette, and it's like, oh, this would be great, because she was supposed to get out and do some walking. The doctor wanted her to do some walking, so let's take a walk. So we walked downtown and had her help me try to find the one that couldn't find, and she found it right off the bat. So she's the one that finds my tough ones for me.
Yeah, I'm the same way. My wife usually has to help me with the hard ones.
So after that, it's just being, well, went up north to the cottage, and there was a bunch up the cottage, and got the kids into it, and then after that, just kept going and going and going. And now I'm obsessed.
Yeah. And how many finds are you sitting at right now?
4,440 as of Saturday's rush.
Yeah. All right. All right. So let's see. So Dan, tell us what got you started into vlogging. What was the thing that you said, you know, I might as well vlog? What was that?
All right. I don't know if you guys have seen. I have a geocaching gnome. It's a Travelocity gnome. I don't know how many of you guys have seen it, but my dad found it at a True Value up in New York a long time ago, and he gave it to my mom. And when my dad passed away, my mom gave it to me. And what I'd do is I'd show my mom my travels by taking pictures of the gnome at this place and that place and this place and that place. Well, a picture doesn't show everything, but when you go vlogging, I was like, well, I could vlog and I could show her more, because there's a lot more out there than just a picture on a building, a picture on a sign, or a picture on a statue. There's a more out there if you vlog. And then Erin's family also wanted to know what we were doing, so we decided to do it that way. Like, they could see our adventures, they could see what we're doing on Georgia, because a lot of people don't know that Georgia's pretty much all forest besides Atlanta. A lot of it's just forest out here, and there's a lot to see out here. And I thought by sharing YouTube adventures, they could see what Georgia has to offer, because a lot of people, like, I like knowing that people could watch my videos and see Georgia. Oh, maybe we'll see Georgia, go to Georgia sometime. There's a lot of forest, there's a lot of stuff out there. And same with you guys. You probably have it with your videos, like in Michigan and where you guys are in Canada. Like, people could see Canada because they don't get a chance to go there. I like that fact that people could watch me. One day we'll take a trip to Georgia and go caching, because those caches look interesting and that area looks interesting to see. So,
right. Yeah. Yeah. I noticed that with watching all the different videos from the different states, like with Georgia, the landscape that you have there, and with Brent and Jeff and Dave, we get to see the Canadian landscape, which is it was actually quite a bit different than Georgia. And then you watch Scott's videos out in California, and you're seeing almost like these desert mountains out there. I'm sure it's not always brown. They had the fire, but you know, you see the different landscapes, and that's part of why I enjoy watching the videos, just to see the different landscapes and the different areas where people hide caches.
Even Moto Joe, when he was in Arizona, the stuff that he sees, it was amazing, the drone footage he used to have. I love watching his videos just to see the drone footage of everything out there.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
just, like each cacher has their own style, and that's what I liked about it. Like you see different things. Like if you watch Katie's videos, she's right next to the city, but look how much the video where she's out in the woods and she's right next to the city of Atlanta. People don't realize how much city of Atlanta has to offer, like right outside the city like that.
Right. Yeah. So Brent, what made you decide to pick up the video camera or your phone and go out and take video?
Well, watching the rest of you guys do it. I've been doing video for years. We actually had a TV studio in my basement for the local cable company. So I'm playing around with cameras and stuff for quite a few years. And when I started getting into geocaching, I started watching all the vloggers here and go, gee, that'd be something cool to do. Is like if I could remember to actually take out the phone and actually film something when I'm finding a cache, which is the hard part. But yeah, been watching Josh's videos when he started to. I did a couple before the geocaching challenge of the month came out, like a little reveal video of new coin that I got, and then tried Periscope for a couple videos, live feed, and then copied it to YouTube for broadcast, and then decided just to go straight with the YouTube videos. So, and then Josh's and Lisa's geocache challenge of the month got me doing it pretty much every month, and joined the network and try to put out something every week, sometimes more.
Yeah. Yeah, that once a week, I haven't done once a week consistently. Pretty close, but that's a tough one to do once a week continually. So Brent, you mentioned that you had a TV studio in your basement, and you talked about being in a portable video van or whatever. I don't know what you're doing in there. Hopefully you're not around parks and playgrounds with that, but what is it that you do to earn a paycheck?
Well, paycheck, I'm internet tech support and repairs computers here, but my sideline job is working for the cable company in town, and not so much anymore because I only do one thing now, and that's live TV bingo for the older ladies in town that want to watch TV and play their bingo cards and win some money. So, but I was doing major projects with the cable company. We were doing hockey almost a couple times a month, baseball games in the summer, soccer games, council meetings every week. So we had a mobile van that had 3 cameras and a full edit studio. So we'd go out to these events and film it. And so it's a mostly volunteer. Some of it was paid of stuff to get me through it, and worked for the company for a bit when one of the guys, the main guy, had a heart attack and was off, and then they went and gave the job to somebody else, and so I kind of settled back, and I just volunteer when needed now.
All right. All right, Dan, you touched on it earlier a little bit about what you do. Tell us a little bit what you do to earn a paycheck.
I work for Shaw Floors, or Shaw, whichever one you call it. They make flooring for the world. They, especially in my plant, they make, if you ever go into like a Best Buy or a, like, they're not Wachovia anymore, or are they Wachovia? One of the banks. You see the 2 foot by 2 foot square carpet tiles. Those are what my plant makes. The only company in the world or makes those carpet tiles. So if you see 2 foot square carpet tiles on the floor, they come from my work. They're the only plant that makes them. And I work on a line that puts like the lake carpet, and we put the like sort of the stain master on the front end so it doesn't get stains and all that stuff. So, and our facility's huge. We have 1,700 employees alone in my plant, and it's pretty big. We probably, on a rough estimate a week, we probably put out 675 square yards of carpet week. So
Wow.
just on my lawn alone.
Well, that's a lot.
So I'm Shaw's evil way to carpet the world. That's how we say it.
All right. Oh.
So
Right.
that was Erin. She put on a video. Don't worry about it.
All right.
She's around. She's just in the background like she is on my videos, pointing me where the cache is, so I know where to go to look for it. She's coming over here. You'll see her in a second.
All right.
So everybody,
So,
there's Erin.
There's Erin. Yay. Okay, Erin, since you're here, you might as well ask you, because you're part of Adventures with Dan. Oh, now she can hear me. All right. So since you're here, we're going to ask you a question because you're part of Adventures with Dan, or part of Dan's Big Adventure. So what did you think of Dan starting the whole geocaching vlogging thing?
I wasn't really a big fan of it, just because I always felt like, let's hurry up and find the next cache. But over time, I'm really proud of him and how much he's improved over time. And
do you plan on being in the videos a little bit more, or?
Well, I am getting heckled by a couple people in the geocaching network. No names.
That's probably good because I'm probably one of them. But it's good. I like seeing like you guys going out and like geo trails and Three Happy Campers. You know, when there's couples that go out. My wife geocaches with me once in a great while. She'll go out, but for the most part, she's like, I'll sit here and read a book. So it's good to see couples going out together or families.
Well, as far as geocaching goes, we equally like, to geocache. A lot of times I'm the one that tries to find places to go. And then Dan just goes along for the ride.
He's just the cameraman, right?
A lot of times she's in the background, just like, here's like a little side note, like she's in the background, like just out of view of my camera, she's like pointing the camera, like it's over there, go over that way, go over that way. So you guys don't get to see that, but like she's just out of view of the camera, just saying, Dan, look over that way, and then everybody's like, oh, I just found it. No, she found it. I'm just going to look for
it. Yeah. So Amanda, the Geo Girl 82, asks, when is Erin going to be front and center in a video?
Oh, I've been begging her. I told her the last video I made, I told her, do you want to do the intro and the outro, and you can do a video on your own, just to shock the YouTube world that you're doing it instead of me. So maybe it'll happen soon.
Yeah, good. So Brent, your wife, Annette, does she geocache with you, or is she sit and read, or?
No, she's out about 90% of the time with me. So she's a lot of times she'll be in the vehicle, and if we're doing like a power trail or something, she's doing the driving and I'm doing the running. That's how it worked on the weekend there. Then if I run into problems and I'm too long looking for a cache, she'll come out and find it for me.
Okay. So question for both of you, and whoever wants to answer first, go ahead. What did you do in your spare time before geocaching? What was the one thing that occupied your spare time?
Well, I mean, we always like to go on little random trips, throughout Georgia, especially since, we haven't always lived here. I guess geocaching, it's kind of like more like you have a friend that's already our suggestion, you go there.
And we, like I said before, like when we got into caching, we were hiking trails all over the place. Like we were trying to find this places to see and things to do, and we just like she happened to find geocaching, and it just led us to more greater things out there to see. And like she said, it's friends.
Well, and the internet has changed a lot, you know, in the last couple of years, because before you had smartphones, you kind of had a plan before you left your house, you know, where you wanted to go to a point. Mm-hmm. Or you could print off MapQuest with like 5 pages to get to one place, and then have to try to find out for maps or something like that. So I think technology has changed a lot, even with our geocaching.
Right. Yeah. So Brent, what did you do before geocaching?
I can't remember.
I know you fish.
Was there life? Yeah, I fish. Not as much as I'd like to, and not back then, not as much. So we used to still take little day trips here and there. We still take the day trips around, but now it's stop for a cache here and there if I'm allowed. Then before a net, it was just basically computer stuff all day and all night. So, so games and stuff. So now geocaching's getting me outdoors, off the couch, out from watching TV all night or day.
Right.
About it.
All right. So I wonder if anybody in the chat room has any questions for Dan or for Brent. So if you got a question, go ahead and stick that there in the chat, and we'll try to catch it before it goes zipping by us. We got a nice little crowd of 18 people watching, so that's nice.
Better than nothing.
Yep.
Yeah, people will be in the replay tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dan Close says it's not called fishing, it's called all day drinking with a few fish thrown in.
He's seen my video of fishing, so.
Yeah. No, yours is catching chipmunks with peanuts.
Yeah, that was fun. Chipmunks go fishing.
All right. Oh, Shalaknar. Shalaknar wants to know, Dan, when did you start geocaching and why? Which we already covered that if you would have been here at 8 o'clock, but we'll let Dan recap that. So Dan, let Shalaknar know why and how you got into geocaching.
We started in March 2011, and we basically did it because we were hiking and we were trying to find something to push us to hike more. And we used to call caching before we really got into it because there's caches out there to find, and we found them when we were hiking. It was just, and we just got addicted to it because the greater finds that were out there. Like I said, we had a lot of people in our area that were putting out decent caches, and at the time we were surprised by every cache we found. Like when I found my phone surprising tube, I was like, oh my god! And then just same thing with a lamp skirt and stuff like that. You're shocked by everything until you get, wow, another lamp skirt. Then you're getting bored of them. But when you first start, you're so excited. You're like, I can't believe that this cache has been there for X amount of years, X amount of even there. So.
Right. You were breaking up there a little bit. I think your connection was a little weak there, but I think we caught most of that. Hailmeister wants to know if any hockey fights are going to break out between Brent and Dan tonight with the Sabres versus the Leafs.
Leafs will definitely beat the Sabres this year, so we don't.
The Sabres have gotten a lot better, though, Brent. You got to admit that.
Yeah, not like they were. The Leafs turn to win the cup this year.
The Canadian team will never win the cup.
All right, so we're going to break this fight up right now before we get into the fisticuffs. Dan Close wants to know if anybody's planning on ever going international. I went international because I went to Canada, and Brent's been international because he's coming to the U.S. But do either of you have plans getting overseas?
Well, no immediate plans for me. I'd like to go to the UK Bash next year in Scotland, but I don't foresee the budget planning on that. Well, maybe one year. And I'd like to hit those Australian events with sea shells there as well. They see these videos of these great events. And it's like, oh, I want to go. I want to go.
Yeah, yeah.
If I win the lottery, I'll go, because right now it's not in my funding, and the events here break up my funding enough. I'd have to win the lottery to go over there.
Yeah. I would love to go over to Ireland and get, Europe's first or whatever, and cash across Europe. But it seems like family events and like going to Geo Woodstock, it's like, okay, that's my vacation for the year. So it'd be like a 2 or 3 year planning process and saving and collecting pop bottles to get over there. So one of the questions from the chat room is, do you have hides out there, and about how many hides do you have and what kinds?
I have 84 hides out there. So I used to, when I used to hide my caches, I used to one up myself every time. And when I went up myself, I just got burned out because I couldn't think of any more ideas to put out caches. Like when I put out a cache and it was behind a tree, people were messaging me all over the place. Oh, is this really your cache? Did you really put it out, or did Aaron put it out? Because I used to have to put out my caches when Aaron wasn't around, because some of them were, let's just say, like not really sketchy ideas, but like they were sort of dangerous hides. But people that like the thrill of the hunt and caching would love. Like I had one on a retaining wall that was 20 feet up, and like that wasn't the cache itself, but you looked up and it was like 6 foot up on the wall, on the retaining wall, and you opened it up and said, look over X amount of feet and look up, and it was 20 feet up the retaining wall, and you had to climb up the retaining wall literally all the way up to the top. And I even put on a cache page that you had to have somebody with you, because on the bottom of the retaining wall was sort of like a ditch, and if you would have fell off and no one was there, no one's going to see you in that ditch. So that's like one of my hides I put out, but I had to get rid of that because it went into like a trespassing area. So,
okay. Brent, you got hides out there?
Yeah, a few here. According to the records here, it's 262 hides. That includes open caching as well as geocaching.com. So,
okay.
And 98 traditionals, 62 mysteries. I will have hosted 46 events in coming November. I got 21 virtuals on the open caching site spread across North America. Hosted 10 CETO events. I have 9 webcam caches on open caching, 6 earth caches, 4 letterboxes, 3 multis, 2 Wherigos, and 1 lab cache.
Wow.
That's too many for me.
So Brent, let me ask you a little bit about the open caching, your hides for open caching. Do those get found a lot, or do you find that like few and far between?
Very far in between here. There's pretty much only about 4 people in Ontario that are active on open caching. So
now this isn't the same open caching that was part of Garmin.
No, it's
correct?
not the opencaching.com that was the Garmin offshoot of geocaching.com when they were having their little spout there a few years ago. Yeah. This is opencaching.us or .ca. It takes you to the same site. It's an open source site for caching. Basically, you put the caches in, and it's reviewed by other cachers. They have a bunch of different types that geocaching.com doesn't have. They have like bit caches, which are sort of like a Muncie that you just scan and you have to punch in a code, and it lets you do virtuals, which I like, and webcams. So something different. I wish more people would get interested in it. It's a great alternative. And I use CGO on my Android phone for caching, so it loads both apps, both sites up. So if I'm driving around, I'll see both caches from both sites up on the live map as I go by, and it's like, oh, let's grab that one.
Yeah, I've not looked into that. I've noticed in the last couple of weeks that you've done some open caching, and I just haven't opened up. And I guess I could do that in CGO, just add that into what shows and find out if there's anything around me. But
it's a lot bigger down in the States and up in Canada. So I know I just put one out in Manitoba after watching Aklava's little video on the center of Canada. So it's like, oh, that deserves a virtual out there. So I created one. She actually sent me the picture for use on the website for the cache page for it. So
all right. So another question from the chat room was favorite cache that you found. Do you have one or a couple favorite caches that you can recall?
Want me to go, or do you want to go?
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
I have two. They're by a guy named Azergroff. I'm gonna give his name up. He actually likes me promoting his caches and Red Breaker down here. Azergroff, he had a Wherago. I don't know if it's still active. That it's actually on one of my videos. I won the geocaching of the month, the thing for it in December, where you had to do a Wherago, and it brought you to his front door of his house, and he had a container out there, and you had to open up the container, and he had gizmos and a whole bunch of stuff to get the final codes to unlock a box to get in the cache itself. If you want to see the video, it's in my videos. And I did one by it. Offhand. Well, he has a ton of them. Just watch. He had one with the you had to open up a box, and it was a crane machine, and you had to use the crane machine to get a film canister, and then the film canister was a key to a lock or ammo can. It was insane. So
that sounds fun.
So
I've done some pretty neat caches throughout the place, so it's hard to pick just one. When we're down at Geo Woodstock in Washington, or near Washington, Maryland's 2015, we did some of West Virginia Tim's gadget caches, and they're just fantastic. And last couple summers, I've been working on the Geocaching Capital of Canada tour. It's 150 caches in Northern Ontario, and a lot of gadget caches, and they're just remarkable. I put some in my videos, and London Westy's done a couple in his videos as well. There's just a great tour. A lot of driving. I've only got 30 something done out of the 150, so it's going to take a while if I just do one day at a time.
All right.
I got to make my way up to West Virginia to get his.
Yeah, that's kind of like the mecca. You know, it's like everybody, we got to get to West Virginia and do West Virginia Tim's gadget caches. Yeah, I'd love to get out there, and it's not really that far. If I look at it on the map, it's 8 or 9 hour drive to get out there. It's just a matter of, again, getting the time and the gas money to get out there and spend some time out there doing them. So, all right. So I didn't see any more questions in the chat room. Dan, you've got going caching coming up here in the month of October. Can you just kind of give us an overview of what that entails, and just maybe highlight a couple of the great points of that event?
Going caching is a great event. Like, you guys have your Midwest. We all love going caching down here in the South. They have an escape room during the event, which is amazing. They have the geocaching cards. I don't know if you guys seen it in my one video that I have the cards, but I have actually one of mine right here that you can do during the event. There's my card. They have those, and they actually have a puzzle and a puzzle of caches cards as well, where you have to collect 10 cards, and you actually have to look at the map on the cards, and that's your basically your entry into the escape room. They tell you how to get tickets for the escape room with that, and there's usually 3 sets of cards that you have to get stamped during the event. They're not actually at the event. They're out and about in Rome, Georgia, and you have to get them stamped, and those are your tickets. They also have their coins. Their coins are amazing. I don't know if you guys have seen their coins, but those you actually have to use for the escape room as well. They do different things. Like this was one of the coins from the 1 year at the TARDIS. That was amazing. This thing weighs probably a good half a pound. Another thing they like to do, I like that they promote like cashers interacting with each other with the cards, with like getting the puzzle pieces together and actually teaming up with people to do the escape room, teaming up to do the coffee challenge and trying to get that challenge out of the way on Friday. They have where you have to find at least, I think, 30 caches usually, but you don't have to find that many if you don't want to. And they usually have a coin and a pet tag associated with that. They have the matey match button where you're getting above and like we all have, and you have to find your match throughout the crowd of people, and that promotes people talking to each other. They like to promote people talking to each other and getting to know each other and talk. It's different than all the events I've been to, including Geo Woodstock. Because Geo Woodstock, if you're not with a group of people, you're just doing your own thing. There, they sort of promote people talking to each other more than any other event I went to. So they know what they're doing. They usually have a show on Friday nights where they do a little skit with the theme of that year. This year it's Ghost theme, so it'll probably be something with ghost and goblin sort of thing. And then they have usually a dance party like they did a couple years ago, or they do like a sort of another gathering where all the cashers could get together and have fun and do whatever.
And what weekend is that?
The first week in October. I think October 4th through the 7th or 8th.
Okay. All right. And that's in Rome, Georgia?
Yeah.
So where in the state is that? Are we talking
northwest corner?
Northwest. Okay. So
they do crazy things.
So you're kind of close to a couple of old caches there. Is that fairly close to what is it? The one on the island?
Oh, Lake Lanier's oldest,
yeah,
and all that up there.
Yeah.
That's probably about a 2.5 hour drive from me.
Okay.
And add another 20 minutes to that to Rome. So, and then the oldest in Georgia is probably a good 2 hour drive south of me. So add that 2 hours and a half. But usually, and I'm going to tell you this right now, usually that cache is deactivated during the Rome event.
Okay.
For some reason, because it's basically in a community, so they don't want 300 plus cachers if they're from out of state running into a community because it's in a community, so they don't want a load of cars going up and down the road. So,
right. Well, and I think Amanda, GeoGirl82, I think she did a video, and when she found it, I believe that was her, right, Amanda? That it was kind of taken apart and things were laying outside of the cache. So, yeah, I can see where a large group of people descending on that cache would kind of ruin things.
And it's like right next to their pool house, if I can remember right, because I found it for my 1,000th cache well before I even started YouTubing. So it's like if you got a group of people going over there, you're gonna get a group of people wondering what they're doing, and they're gonna they'll destroy the cache, I'm sure, if they don't know it's there.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Okay, Brent, you've had a couple events recently, a mega event and then a near mega event.
Yeah. the Discover LNA Mega back in August. Ontario's only mega event. It's up in Napanee, Ontario, which is east side of Ontario, off of not too far from Lake Ontario. It's a great event. They put out a ton of caches, really well run. Lots of caches to find, and we spent the last couple of years doing this tour, as well as getting the lab caches and that. The other event is the Gagafat, which is in Rockwood, Ontario. That was just on Saturday. It's Canada's longest running annual event. It's a family picnic. It's run like a mega event. They put on a lot of different games, poker run. It's held in this little conservation area in the town there, and there's a ton of trails there and caves and a little creek, pond, sort of a lake, I guess. And there's caches out there. You can rent canoes right there and take them, go down and get them. And they had this. I just did the 50 caches for the new geo art they just put out this year for it. So it was a fun time, and they had over $7,000 worth of prizes donated for gifts. So we came out with a ammo can that actually was donated by Cash Canada, London Westie, and a $50 keg steakhouse card for supper. So looking forward to using that on a steak.
Yeah. All right. So the Discovering LNA, do they do anything special or different that would deserve mention from other mega events that you know of?
It's pretty much your typical mega event. Come and sign in, and they had their different games like your ammo can toss and stuff like that. And one vendor there selling geocaching material, Cacher's Corner Store, does a lot of sponsoring for me, and the other geocaching vloggers. And they have prizes to be won, and they put out the lab caches, and they had the geo tour, and then they have a big potluck supper afterwards that everybody's invited to.
All right. So anybody else in the chat room, if you have any questions for these guys, I see Moto Joe has joined us in the chat room. We've got Married with Hobbies. Patrice is in the chat room. Who else? Jeff Chasing the Iron Man. He's in the chat room. And
on a quick side note, for going caching this year, they're going to have 30 lab caches and 9 lackeys.
9 lackeys.
Yeah.
Wow. I think we had
They just
2.
announced that last night. So.
Yeah. Wow.
So.
That's quite a few.
That's a lot of lab caches for a mega event. Usually the gigas only get 30. So.
Yeah.
Well, Jimmy, like I said, if you guys ever get a chance to go down and go caching, it's a different kind of experience. The way they do things and set things up, and it's different. So.
Yeah. So you guys go ahead and keep chatting here. I'm gonna do a quick.
Also, during this year's going caching, they're gonna they already sold out of both of these, but they're doing a pub crawl and they're also doing a ghost tour on Thursday night after they do the flash mob event, which I'm really looking forward to. You guys will see it in my videos because I'm gonna get a video of each of those events. So.
All right.
So.
I got a couple smaller events coming up in the next couple months. Next week, I have a CETO event for CETO this weekend, Sunday, and then we've got a scavenger hunt event coming up the following week. It's a scavenger hunt and barbecue, which is a nice little event we put on every year. This will be our 3rd year putting it on, and we hand out a lot of prizes. They put out a bunch of caches, temporary. It's not online or anything, so I have a GPX file that you can download, put it on your device, and go out and find these temp caches. And last year we ran it as a poker run, so they grabbed cards. The year before was a time thing. This year they're changing up the rules. I haven't been informed what exactly we're doing this year, but it should be fun. And in November we got the GIF event coming up, which usually draws quite a few people in. We get about 80 people in there. My boss owns the theater in town, so he rents it out cheap to us, and we get to see the GIF films all on the big screen.
Nice. Well, any kind of event where you have a barbecue would be a bonus for me. I'd be more than happy to check out the barbecue.
You're more than welcome to pop over. It's probably about a 3-hour drive over here for you.
What's that date again?
It's a week from Sunday.
So that, let's see, Sunday is going to be the 17th, so what, the 24th?
Hey, Neil, I got a question for you. When you get
All right. Sure, go for it.
Do you guys have the enhanced licenses in Michigan, or do you have to get a passport?
No, we have enhanced license. So it cost me $45 to get the enhanced license. And then
I wish I did that all of the states.
Yeah, you got to get a passport.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably with the bordering states, probably is why. So because, I mean, if you're in Detroit, I'm sure there's people that probably live in Detroit and work in Canada, or work in Windsor, or people in Port Huron that work just across the river. But yeah, it's $45 every 4 years. So it makes it nice. Just pull up and show them your driver's license and get across. So
yeah, because I can see Canada when I go home. I just can't cross over the border, which is awful.
Yeah, and a passport costs a little bit more than an enhanced license.
I went with the passport. We could get the enhanced license as well, but it's only good for driving across the states. If you want to fly down to the states, it wasn't any good, and figured might go south to Mexico or something sometime. So opted to get the 10-year passports, and it's been. We've gone over to Allegheny State Park for their geobash 2 or 3 years, and to the Geo Woodstock so far. So it's come in handy.
Yeah, because I've been to Canada twice now for some geocaching, and I got to say, if anybody wants to go for numbers, the southern part of Ontario is definitely a place to go. You got the Chimichanga series, but even on the, like just across the river from Detroit there, Windsor and Sarnia, in that area, there's a lot of power trails going in there on the bike trails. So
yeah, we like our power trails up here. So yeah, there's 2,000 caches in the Chimichanga line there, including the GeoArt, the Nukshuk GeoArt. And,
yeah,
I've only probably done 200 to 300 somewhere in there, so I haven't been up to do them all. But they get little yellow pill bottles get a little boring after 100. So
yeah, I know. When we were there last year, we did short series that was in a little power trail south of London, and we had 11 DNFs in a row. And I mean, we didn't take any pill bottles or anything and we determined we just weren't going to do throwdowns. And it's like, well, 11 DNFs, so yeah.
Was that because of the snow probably, or do you think they just were taken off the side of the road?
Well, I don't know if you've noticed, probably in your area when you're in the woods, the little plastic bottles, whether they're pill bottles or peanut butter jars, the critters, the squirrels and the chipmunks, they tend to like to chew on that. Yeah, and they chew on them and they haul them away, or a good stiff wind will blow that thing. There was a little bit of snow when we were in Ontario last time, and that may have had a little bit to do with it, but the ones we did find weren't bothered by it. I think it's just the critters walk off with them, or I don't see why people would even want to take them if they found them, but I think they just end up missing, or somebody doesn't see it and they do a throwdown someplace 10 feet from where the cache was, and I don't know, it just wasn't well maintained.
Well, right now, the Bling Power Run, I don't know if you guys know what the Bling Trail is. It's just outside of Topsail Island where that Hurricane Florence is about to hit. So I don't know how many of the caches are going to have left after the hurricane hits there, because it's sort of like a swamp area. You only can go there and cache certain times of the year because the gators tend to, their time of the year where they do everything, put it that way. And they don't want anybody in the area because they tend to attack when they're in that state of mind. So
sorry, I was just kind of chatting there, making sure that somebody's in the chat room. So
Robert William Roberts.
yeah, that old William. Robert William. So Amanda, GeoGirl82, she has a question. It says, I have to ask, what is Tim Hortons? I've heard Brent mention it in his videos, but we don't have that down here. What kind of food is there? Well, before
I'll give you some Tim Hortons, Amanda. I have some in my pantry in Georgia, so I'll give you some.
Before Brent answers that question, I got to tell you, the last couple of weeks I've been hitting on their 2 for $4 breakfast sandwiches. Pretty yummy. Go ahead, Brent. Give us the Tim Hortons lowdown.
You get the specials we don't, I guess. I haven't seen that special. Tim Hortons is Canada's answer to Dunkin' Donuts, basically. Tim Horton was a hockey player, and he opened up the first Tim Hortons in Hamilton, Ontario, and it's boomed, and now there's pretty much a Tim Hortons on every street corner in Toronto, and here in Simcoe, about 16,000 people, and we have 3 Tim Hortons, and so it's a favorite spot for us to get together for our coffee events. We have just a straight coffee event, and the coffee's not too bad. I prefer McDonald's coffee, but and they have donuts, they have sandwiches, they have soups, all their cappuccinos and lattes, and not that we're sponsored by Tim Hortons or anything.
I'll give her some Tim Hortons coffee next time I see her. I have some in my pantry. So there's people here that actually, when I go home to New York, they actually tell me that are from New York, give me a can of Tim Hortons coffee and bring it home to Georgia. So that's how good people like it. So
yeah, we have probably, I can think of at least 4 Tim Horton locations in Grand Rapids alone. So there's one a mile from my work. If I'm early enough to work and I've got the money, I stop in and grab that 2 for $4 limited time breakfast sandwich on a bagel. They're pretty tasty, and yes, I do eat both of them.
It used to make me so mad when I'd see what is it? Jeez, I'm drawing a blank here. It's a geocaching with lunch. Ron, he'd go there and stop on his lunch break, and he'd get like an iced cappuccino, and I'm like, no, don't do that to me.
Yeah. The other good part about Tim Hortons is the what do they call them? The little donut holes.
Tidbits.
Tidbits. Yeah, that's pretty yummy. Yeah, we've had probably 3 or 4 different meet and greet events at Tim Hortons, or like just before a CETO event, somebody will have everybody gather up at the Tim Hortons that's close by. So,
as part of the geocaching invasion of Canadian invasion to Geo Woodstock, we put together. We're trying to have an event at Tim Hortons in Cincinnati, but we couldn't put a satellite event on because they locked it out for so many miles that you couldn't have an event the same day as the Giga. So they were going to look into getting Timbits to hand out at the booth that we had there, and I'm not sure if they did it or not. So
I didn't see any.
I can understand, like, if you're the same group putting on the mega event, but if you're a separate person altogether, they shouldn't care if you put on an event because it's under you, not the going caching. They have their own name. Why does it have to affect if you put out an event? I don't understand why they do that.
Yeah.
Well, I think they do it to keep people from stacking events for, for challenges or whatever. We got a question in the chat room from Bill, Geoscouter. Wants to know if anyone knows if there's a beer geo trail.
No, but I've been thinking about starting one.
I know you can come to Grand Rapids. We're considered beer city now, so there's plenty of breweries. We had a cacher here that would do a brewery event once a month. Did that for like 2 years. Different brewery every month. Everybody'd show up, even with their kids.
They are doing a pub crawl going caching, but it's sold out already. So if you get a path tag and they're actually giving you a glass that's embossed with something from going caching. So,
yeah. Pretty Happy Camper says there's a craft beer geo trail in Alabama.
Oh, nice.
Welcome
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
We have a cache at a local brewery outside of town here. Stopped and grabbed the cache and went in and got a 6-pack sampler of their beer. So
there you go. All right.
I do enjoy Canadian beer over American beer, even though I have a Budweiser plant like 2 miles from my house. So,
well, I drive by Founders every day when I come home from work. So, but I tell you what, driving by that place in the afternoon, it stinks. I don't know what they're doing. They're brewing something, probably cooking hops or something. But that does not smell good. I don't like it. So. All right. Well, we're 2 minutes away from our 9 o'clock end time. The official end time is 9 o'clock. If these guys want to keep talking, or if there are questions in the chat room, we can. Nothing says that we have to stop at 9. So.
I have to roll at 9. So if you want to keep going, I'll let you guys go.
All right. So Brent's going to be taking off here in a couple minutes. So if anybody has a question in the chat room for Brent real quick, make it fast. All right.
Neil, one thing. What's the latitude that you're at?
The latitude, 43.
43? Okay.
Let me check here real quick. View map. Because the 45th parallel is up in Traverse City. Yes, 43.
Okay. I'm right at 42 as it crosses to the 43 here. Like everything south of town is 42 and everything north of town is 43. So,
okay. We're not far off. The cache I'm looking at right now is only like, it says 0.2 of a mile from my house, and it's north 4313. And I know, so I think 42 is where it goes from 42 to 43 is about 15 miles. It's just north of Grand Rapids, or just on the north end of Grand Rapids. So pretty close.
So you're just slightly north of us in Canada here.
Yeah. Yeah, our neighbors to the north or south. Yeah. Let's see. Is there any questions in there? Oh, so did you guys get your souvenir for the month?
Yes. My last video there, I got 63 caches, including the event on Saturday. So 800 and something points kind of put me over the 50 I needed. So I don't know about this. For adrenaline junkie, would have thought the points would have been a little higher you needed. So
Yeah. Yeah, they went from.
I haven't got them yet. I'm probably gonna give them. I'm sorry.
Come on, Dan. It only takes like 4 caches.
I'm getting them this weekend. They'll be done. I'll get them though. It's just September. I sort of slow down, like I said, because I have going caching the first weekend. After that, I have haunted house reviews, and that takes up a ton of my time. And it's just October's a big month for me. So
yeah. Yeah, I was surprised that with the last souvenir thing, you had to get 100, had to find 100 caches in a month, and it's like, you know, that's even for a guy like me that tries to get out as much as I can. I mean, I don't as much as I used to, but you know, 100 caches a month is actually quite a bit. But then to have, you know, like you said, Brent, the geocaching adrenaline, you only have to find 5 caches really, and if you planned it, you could find 2 caches and get it if it had enough, you know, if the DT was right and had enough favorite points. So
I didn't think the 100 would be that much of a problem. I could go out and do 100 of the chimichangas in a hour, a couple of, well, it takes me, chimichangas were averaging about 20 an hour, so 5 hours, go out for the day and grab 100 caches. But it was so hot and humid that I didn't even want to go out to caching here, so looking forward to the cooler weather here to actually go out and find some caches.
okay, Dan Close has a question. Are you heading towards any personal challenges at the moment?
Always.
I want to try to get to 10,000 by the end of next year, if it's possible. That's a personal goal of mine, but it's gonna be hard to find because we're gonna have to go back up to where we got 2,000-3,000 a year, which is possible. It's just, like I said, when this year work got in the way a little bit, and then other things. So I'm hoping things will get back to normal where I could go out caching and actually enjoy myself. And during like he said, the fall, it's the better time of the year in Georgia, because in the summer down here, no one wants to cache when it's 99+ degrees. It's just, and the humidity's over 90 plus, and the heat index ends up being closer to like 120, and it's not fun caching in 120 degree weather.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had that same issue here with high humidity in the upper 80s, low 90s. And when you step out your door, you start to sweat. It's no fun.
Even if you go out in the morning by 11 o'clock noon, you're like, oh, I can't breathe. It's awful.
Yeah. I've just went over the 4,400. I wanted to get to 5,000 this year, but because of the weather and other circumstances, way back. So should be able to do 4,500 no problem. Maybe up to 4,600. Maybe by May next year, I'll be up to the 5,000. I've been sitting waiting to get two more caches on my Jazz Fizzy grid to get the double Fizzy grid. That's been 6 months or more than 6 months since last year that I've had these two. They're not too far. There's a little bit of trail walking to get to them. One's in the woods in highly tick infested woods, so I haven't really wanted to go down there this time of year either. And always looking for Jasmer caches to fill in the grid. So
yeah,
I have yet to get my Jasmer, my calendar, or my Fizzy grid. I've been caching since 2011, so I don't have any of that filled in yet. So
yeah, we all started in 2000. I started in October of 2011, and I really went gangbusters right away, and I had my date placed grid. I had that filled, I think, in the first year and a half, and then the 365 days or 366 days, I had that grid filled after 2 years. Finished the Fizzy 3 years ago, and I've got 3 open spots in my Jasmer. Of course, they're all 2000 dates, and they're all, it's
West
North
Coast.
Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. If I get back down there again, I can finish that off. So, but I'm at 6295 right now. So I was kind of hoping to hit 700 or 7,000 before the end of the year, but that's not going to happen unless I make a trip to Canada and hit the power trails. But
Well, there you go.
yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I could see me hitting 6,500 pretty easy before the end of the year, but other than that, my only other personal challenge would be to get my double fizzy, triple fizzy. I think my double fizzy, I have like a 4.5, 5, or 5, 4.5, something before I get my double. But once I get it, I'm like really close to getting my triple. So that's my goal, is to finish off the double or triple fizzy.
What's Zach at right now? He's got like 3 or 4 fizzies filled in, doesn't he?
Who's that?
Zach.
Sodak Zach.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, Brent's got a fellow Canadian, Carney Gruel. What's he, like 111 fizzies, or I don't know, something crazy.
I don't know if you can do that. I think you can only do 12 in North America or something like that. I'm not sure what he's at. But speaking to him, he just had his 3,000th cash consecutive day of finding cash.
Wow.
Wow.
I know he does a lot of traveling in the summertime.
Yeah, he's a teacher, so he's off all summer caching.
Yeah, he was just here. Nobody warned us, and he came into Michigan here last week and for a couple of days. All right.
Only got a couple. Yeah, I got 2 left on my fizzy, and then for the double fizzy, and then probably about 6 to get my triple fizzy. So
Right. It looks like Dan Close is getting close to 4,000. Says he's getting his 4,000th on Saturday for the virtual, and
Nice.
doing some hiking, and then an event afterwards. So congratulations to you early, Dan Close.
Congrats, Dan. Yes. Yeah. Looking forward to the video.
Yeah. Well, it's 9:08, so we'll just go ahead and wrap this up. So I want to thank you, Dan, for joining us, and Brent for joining us. A little bit of international crossover here.
Thanks to Neil for hosting. Another great job.
Thank you. And so everybody can watch us on the playback later. Probably be a couple hours before it's available. But I want to thank everybody in the chat room for joining us tonight. Some good questions, some good chats going on there. And we'll see you next month. We're looking at probably the second week of October. First week of October, I'll be down in Gatlinburg, Tennessee on a little 1-week vacation with some friends. Going to drive my bike on the Dragon Tail.
How are you doing that, Neil?
Oh, man.
You're evil. Come on, Neil.
So we'll see everybody hopefully second week of October. And so have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
All right.